All right, we're live. I'm here in beautiful, sunny Florida. And today, fight fans, we're going to be breaking down UFC on ABC2. We're looking at Vettori versus Holland, late replacement. This is a very fun fight, very fun main event. And it's just not even that. We got 14 fights on this card, which is a nice change of pace. I feel like it's been a lot of 9, 10, 11 fight cards, which y'all know me as a Draftkings player. It's tough when there's only 10 fights on the card because even if you hit that top lineup, you're going to end up tying with 30 other people. Now, with 14 different fights to choose from, I mean, if you call out those six fighters that get the biggest winning score, I mean, you're going to end up in first place by yourself with all these different fighters. 28 fighters. We were looking at 30, but we had a fight scrap today. But regardless, and it's not even just 14 fights. We got some good ass fights too. This is a great card. I got a guest, of course. I got my boy, Clint of the Die Hard MMA podcast. It's always fun to talk to Clint, man, because I remember back when I was just starting this channel like 4 years ago when I was doing my podcast with shout out to Rockstar Z. I mean, Clint was always there showing us support. He was there on Twitter, and it's just awesome to see how much he's grown in his podcast. Absolutely skyrocket. He's doing a great job. I respect you a lot, Clint. So appreciate you joining me, man. So how you doing, and what do you think about this card?
Kelton, what's up, buddy? Thank you very much for the awesome intro, man. I appreciate it, and the stroll down memory lane. Thank you, man. It's awesome to come on the show with you again. It's been way too long since we've hung out on live stream, and you nailed it, man. Like I was a fanboy in the chat, and I watched you and Rockstar Z and Justin, and you guys really are kind of the ones that kind of gave me that push to go ahead and give it a shot and start my own podcast and stuff. That I was like, man, like these are just some bros chilling, talking about fights. I can try it. And here we are. People? So
y'all hear that?
It's cool, man.
MMA right here.
That's right. That's right. One of my very first online appearances was with you and Justin. So gotta love it, man. And this is a great card. I'm stoked to be hanging with you and stoked to talk about it, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too, man. So we have a bet. We both bet the same fighter, and then there's a different fight where we're on opposite sides. So this isn't going to be an agreement fest here. This is going to be a nice podcast, man. And like I said, this card's nice. So I usually wait till the end of the video to ask people for this, but would definitely appreciate a subscription. That like button is always nice. So it just takes 2 seconds. Appreciate you guys for doing that. What's up, everyone in the chat? Rex Lee, Capper Comparison, Glenn, Biggs Omega, SKD, Nick H. Appreciate you guys. So let's get right into it, man. This is a pretty good card. So first fight of the night, man. We got Impa Kasanganay. He's dropping down to 170 pounds here. He's taking on Sasha Palatnikov, who we just have a crazy war with one of the Kosi brothers. That was a great fight. I believe we got fight of the night. Now we got Impa. He is he's minus 300, minus 280, depending on the book. Clint, do you agree with Impa Kasanganay being around a minus 300 favorite here?
I hate the line, man. I absolutely hate the line. So I understand why Impa is a favorite, but realistically, he's still so green. He's still so new to MMA, and he's got so much to learn and grow. He's the kind of fighter that I think can and will, but I don't know if he's there just yet. And he's coming off a bad knockout loss, man, and that I hate quick turnarounds when you come off of a knockout loss, because sometimes you just compound your errors and you end up going out there before you're ready, before your chin's healed up, and you take another one. So I don't like the line at all, but I do think that Impa more often than not wins this fight.
Yeah, I mean, so I mostly agree with him being a big favorite here, but I definitely have my reasons to stay away from parlaying him and all that. I mean, you kind of touched on it, coming off a really tough knockout loss. He's cutting down to 170 pounds here, too, so it's not just the coming off the loss. He's doing a really big weight cut, but I will say he looks in phenomenal shape. And then the other thing, man, this Sasha Palatnikov, dude, he's really tough and durable, and I feel like Impa's going to have to put on like a real tough, hard-fought 15-minute fight here for the most part. So I'm going to go with Impa by decision. Wouldn't touch him at the line, though. So moving on to the next fight, this is a newly made fight, actually. They both had different opponents just a couple weeks ago. We got Jung. He's about minus 140. We saw a line flip on this one. It was Knight as the favorite originally. William Knight, he's plus 118. Clint, I hear you have a bet on this fight. Who you got, man?
You know, man, real quick before we move on to this one, I want to mention I do have a lean to the first fight of the night. I want to see the weigh-ins with Impa and Palatnikov. I'm looking at playing the under 2.5 at about plus 180. Impa is a guy that's been landing some big heavy shots in some of his fights, and guys have just been able to walk through them. Moving down to 170, if the cut goes well, if he belongs there, I think that power is going to translate, and he's going to have a better shot at finishing people. And Sasha blocks punches with his face. So I think there's a decent chance for Impa by knockout, and that's 6-1. So those are kind of the two spots I'm looking at on that one. I want to see him at the weigh-ins though, because you mentioned that weight cut down to 170. I want to see how he looks on the scale before I pull the trigger on anything. Jumping over to this one, yeah, man, you're right. I got a bet on this one, and I hate myself for it. Absolutely hate myself for it. I've got a bet on William Knight at minus 120. Completely botched the line movement. I'm so off on this. I saw that line, and I went, Knight's getting bet. He's going to close minus 170. I need this minus 120. And I couldn't have been more wrong. The line is flipped. You can get plus 115 now on William Knight, and I don't feel confident enough to make it like a 2-unit spot, but I'm extremely tempted to put more money down now that the line has gotten better. So I'm not sure what to do with this one, man. But yeah, I'm on the William Knight side of things.
Man, like, I'm having a tough time picking this fight because obviously I think there's major advantages for both guys. Like, first thing that comes out to me, you got, I mean, what is it, a 6-inch height and reach advantage for Jung. William Knight, he's definitely gonna have the wrestling advantage. I mean, dude is just so strong. Like,
Yeah.
It's crazy how he can get out of certain positions. It almost reminds me of like Derek Lewis, where it's not like the most technical, but like when he wants to get up, he'll just fucking do it. And yeah, man, I mean, if you're 5'10" at light heavyweight, you better be as bricked up as William Knight is. I mean, he's huge, man. So yeah, I could see him like holding Jung up against the fence, maybe getting a takedown or two, maybe even landing a bomb. I mean, he hits hard too, but I don't know, man. I kind of think the money coming in on Jung, like I can see it just because of that 6-inch reach, 6-inch height. He's such a young fighter. He could be making improvements. It's just a really tough fight. I think it's rightly lined close, but we'll see what happens. Moving on to the next one, man. I was interested this one before I looked into it. We got Luis Saldana. He's taking on Jordan Griffin. All the money's been coming in on Jordan Griffin, and I got to admit, like, I agree. I came into this actually wanting to bet Luis Saldana. Like, I remember being much more impressed, like, the night of Contender Series than I was when I was reviewing the tape. I mean, the guy he fought on Contender, Vince Murdoch, let's be honest, he was very small. Like, he was way too small to be in there with Saldana, and Saldana just kind of did his thing. It's the opposite here, man. Jordan Griffin's actually one of the biggest featherweights on the roster. He's got 75 inches of reach. He's bigger than Saldana. He hits hard. He can wrestle at times, but ultimately, I still am going to roll with Saldana here. I think he's good enough to stop the takedowns. I think he can outstrike Jordan Griffin. Jordan Griffin kind of slows down. I like the kicking game of Saldana. I think he just kind of outpoints him over 3 rounds, but nothing I'm crazy confident in. What do you think?
Man, I'm right there with you. I am extremely tempted to take the stab on Jordan Griffin. I didn't, and now I kind of don't want to since the money's come in on him and the line has gotten a little bit worse. I'm not looking to chase and get plus 110 or anything like that on him. But I think that Jordan Griffin, there's arguments for him to be the favorite here. You know, he's got UFC caliber experience. He's got wins in the UFC, and he's taking on a fighter that, like you mentioned, even though he's coming off the Contender Series, he's not really impressed. He doesn't have any good names on his record, and he's got a lot of losses. Like you said, he's a young kid, so maybe he could be improving, but just like Da-Un Jung, I'm not going to back a guy based on improvements that I can't see. You know what I mean? If you can see fight to fight them getting better, that's fine. Go ahead and expect them to improve and continue that trajectory. But in this case, I haven't seen it, so I can't count on him improving here fight to fight. And especially with that kind of a kicking game, all Jordan Griffin does is want to take you down, man. You throw a leg out there, you better believe he's going to grab it. And I don't know enough about Luis Saldana. I don't know if he's got the balance. I don't know if he's got the takedown defense. I don't know if he can stop it. And if you get on the floor with Jordan Griffin, you're in trouble. So I'm kind of leaning Jordan Griffin by submission here in this spot. Saldana may be the second coming of Shit, I messed up my own joke here. He may just be like the next hot thing coming up out of Mexico. You know what I mean? Yair Rodriguez. Damn it. That's what I was going to go with. He may be the second coming of Yair Rodriguez, but he's got to prove it to me. I got to see it first, man. I haven't seen it. I'm not sold. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to actually fade him by betting Griffin here, but if I was going to make a bet, Griffin would be the side I'd be looking at.
Yeah, I mean, the takedown defense with Saldana, like, it's kind of cloudy because, like, yeah, he stuffed, like, all the takedowns against Vince Murdoch last fight. But like I said, this is just such a big leap up in competition. So although it looks like he's doing all the right things, we got to see how he does inside the octagon first. So with you on the pass. Moving on to the next one. This is my first play of the night. We got Jack Shore. A lot of money's been coming on him. He's minus 170 now. He's taking on Hunter Azure, about plus 145. I moved on Jack Shore. I put 3 units on him at minus 141. So nice little line beat there. But, I mean, basically what this fight comes down to, like, I think it'll probably end up being competitive in the first round. But the problem with Azure is he slows down, man. And it's not even just slowing down. Like, so this is actually my first time betting a Hunter Azure fight. And so when he came into the Contender Series, he out wrestled that guy. He looked like a wrestling, that dude he fought made Azure look like a wrestling phenom. So comes into the UFC, fights Brad Katona, and it's like he's just winging these bombs, and it's Brad Katona who's actually getting the better of the wrestling. He was kind of bullying Azure up against the clinch, and that's where Jack Shore shines. Like, he's really good in that clinch. He's really good at dragging his opponents down from there. Jack Shore's a dude who's been improving for a long time, and it's funny. You could scroll all the way back to the beginning of my YouTube channel. I did a Cage Warriors breakdown back when he was like 1-0 or 2-0, and I was saying this guy's going to be in the UFC one day just because he had a really, really long amateur career. I liked his grappling skills. It was just all about catching up the rest of his game. And that's what he's been doing these past few years. I mean, he's 13-0 now. His striking's coming a long way. His wrestling's there. His jiu-jitsu's there. The first round might be scary with Azure winging those bombs. Azure might even be able to get a takedown and get some top control. But I think as time goes on, Jack Shore's going to kind of wear on him, and he's probably going to end up breaking him and submitting him in the second or third round. So rolling with Shore. Who do you got, man?
Man, you've got bigger balls than I do on this one. So I completely agree with you on the breakdown. I kind of expect it to go exactly that same way. I do think Jack Shore is live for a finish, and I might actually sprinkle that round 3 prop. Everyone knows I love to play my round 3s. Jack Shore round 3, 11-1 is looking tasty to me. Just because that gas tank of Hunter Azure, but at the same time, I'm a huge Fight Ready fan. The fact that this guy's over at Fight Ready training with guys like Henry Cejudo, I'm not ready to write Hunter Azure off, and he is a strong, powerful wrestler, and that's really where Jack Shore, that's his bread and butter, man. Like, he's got to grind these people out. He's got to rely on that wrestling. Hunter Azure, he's got that wrestler who fell in love with his striking vibe, and that's my concern with him. Is he took a big L because he fell in love with his striking just a little bit too much, and we've seen him kind of get back to his roots a bit, but I don't know that he's got the gas tank to go 15 with a guy like Shore. He's got fast, crisp, accurate punches, and this guy had wings bombs. So if Jack Shore doesn't mind his P's and Q's, he could go down, man. And the under 2.5 is a spot that I'm a little interested in, but that round 3 for Jack Shore is kind of the way I see things getting done. If Shore can just stay safe, mind his P's and Q's, like I said, in that very first round, drag Hunter Azure into the second round, then maybe he starts winning a few of the grappling exchanges. Then it gets into the third round. What does Hunter Azure have left? Probably not a whole lot. It ends up on the ground. Jack Shore gets his back. That's kind of how I see it going. I think you cash the ticket, but that first round is going to be scary, man.
For sure, man. So moving on to the next one. This is a bit of a shit show, let's be honest here, but I think it's going to play out in a fun way. We got Yorgan de Castro. He's minus 305, taking on the return of the man mountain himself, Jarvis Danjo, plus 255. Got to be honest, I never thought I'd see this guy back in the UFC. I haven't done much research on this fight. I'm not sure why he's been gone as long as he is. Maybe you know, but yeah, this is just Yorgan de Castro. He is much better. Like, he has very hard leg kicks. I could just see him breaking Jarvis down with leg kicks early. I could see him landing a bomb early. I mean, I could see a lot of that, but the problem is if it does go past that first round, Yorgan's gas tank is shit, dude. I mean, we just talked about Azure's gas tank. This dude makes Azure look like a cardio machine, and Yorgan de Castro, dude, just stops fighting after round 1. And I'm kind of worried that Jarvis, if he hangs in there, he could win rounds 2 and 3. We've seen crazier shit inside the UFC. So, yeah, I mean, am I going to play Yorgan at minus 300? Absolutely not. Do I think he ends up getting the first round finish? I do. And even if it does go past the first round, like, I mean, he'll be gas standing in front of a guy who probably will be gas as well. Let's be honest. Jarvis doesn't have some kind of gas stink. So this is a fight where I hope and do think Yorgan gets that round 1 finish, but could totally end up turning into a slop fest. What do you think about this one, man?
Man, this reminds me of Khalil Roundtree's last fight. Absolutely all of us were like, bro, his opponent is a bum. He hits hard. He's winning in round 1. He's going to knock this guy out. He's a minus 300 favorite. It's easy. But it never plays out that easy, man. Easy money in MMA is a hard thing to come by. And I don't know shit about why Dan Ho has been out forever. It's really weird that he disappeared as long as he did. And why is he coming back now? He could be one of these guys that, rolls off the couch and he could have, big old flabby man boobs at weigh-ins on Friday. Like, we just have no idea what's going on here. And if he does come in shape, if he does come ready, like, what if he's been training, man? Like, what if this guy's been in the gym for the last 4 years and he just had some shit in his personal life that kept him out of it? Like, he could come back a brand new man. I can't touch this fight from a betting perspective, and there's not a lot of breakdown to be had because we don't have tape on this man for his last 4 years. And all we know is that his opponent is completely unreliable and not a guy that we want to be betting at that kind of a favorite price. I don't want to touch a side in this thing, man. I don't want to touch a total in this thing because it could last 30 seconds. It could go the full 15. Like, we have no clue what's going to happen in this fight. It's going to be a shit show, and I'm here for it. I can't wait to watch it.
Sure, man. As a Draftkings player, it's a really puzzling fight because, there is a very realistic chance Yorgan comes out here, smashes the slate, scores very high, round 1 finish. But there's also such a high chance he has a good first round, and then second and third round, maybe he lands like 10 strikes around. Like, it could be very low volume. You could end up with 60 points as one of the biggest favorites on the slate. So it's just so tricky. Like, I would recommend, you have to play him. I would put him in like 25, 30% of lineups. That way, if that does happen where he gets a low score, you're still good on 2/3 of your lineups. But again, there's totally a chance he ends up in that optimal, I should say. So moving on to the next.
One of these days, I'm going to pick up Draftkings. One of these days.
It's amazing. It's very fun. So moving on, I do have a play on this fight as well. This was actually the first play I made for this card. So we got Ignacio Bahamondes. He is minus 195. He's taking on John Makdessi, plus 170. There's been a lot of line movement on this fight. And not only that, this has probably been one of the more discussed fights on Twitter this week as well. So I'm on the Ignacio side. I moved in at minus 185. I put him in a parlay, actually, with back from Bellator last week. I put him in a parlay with Magomedov. So I have minus 136 on Ignacio right now because of that cash parlay leg. 3 units. And yeah, man, this should be a pretty good fight. I feel like you usually got to be cautious with these guys like Luis Saldana, like a Contender Series guy who looked good. Everything looked nice and well, but we don't know how they're going to perform in the UFC. Like, I get all that, but I think they stuck him with a pretty good stylistic matchup here, man, just because, big youth advantage, gigantic height and reach advantage, big volume advantage. You kind of feel like John Makdessi, like, he's probably got to land takedowns here. Like, from what I've seen from Ignacio, it's just like his ground game isn't all the way caught up. Like, very, very good striker, but you can tell when he faces a grappler, it could be some trouble. But thing with John Makdessi, which I looked at and was kind of stunned, he, like, all the years he's been in the UFC, I want to say it's been about 10 years since the man's been in the UFC, has not landed a takedown. And not only that, like, the knockouts haven't been coming in recent years either. So I feel like with his 2 biggest path to victories here, which would probably be a knockout, because I doubt he's going to win a volume-based decision here. So a knockout or takedowns, I just see as very unlikely. I got to cap Ignacio at least 70% here, so I do see value on the current line. I think he just picks apart Makdessi. I don't know if finish comes, but if it does end up going the distance, I'll feel pretty good that Ignacio will have landed the more volume, kept that distance, and did his thing. So, yeah, I got 3 units on Ignacio. Think he wins a 30-27 unanimous decision. Who you got?
Kelton, man. Why are people betting John Makdessi? What What has he done that makes you want to bet him? Is it the fact that he can't land a takedown in 17 UFC fights? Is it the fact that he stays outside and like flips his toes out to slap your calf a couple times a fight? Like, what does he do that has people wanting to back him? I know this is like the spot. We've had so many fighters in this exact position just come into the UFC and lay an egg. They're super hyped off of Contender Series. They look awesome. We all think they're legit. They roll in as a favorite, and then they shit the bed against an opponent they should really be beating. And that the only reason I'm not betting this spot is because I've fallen into that trap a couple times before, but I see no reason whatsoever to bet John Makdessi here. Ignacio is younger. He's taller. He's faster. The only people that give him trouble are people that close the range and either have sharp boxing that are right in the pocket with him or take him down. John Makdessi doesn't do either of those two things. The dude's an aging kickboxer who's 17-7. He plays the outside, and he wants to trade leg kicks. If you're going to play that game, you're going to lose to the younger, faster, longer fighter. So unless John Makdessi suddenly has a new wrinkle that we have yet to see over his entire UFC career, which you can't teach an old dog new tricks, Kelton. It just doesn't happen in MMA today. I don't see how he wins this fight. Again, I don't like the price tag because I've fallen into this trap a couple times myself. So I've sworn myself I'm not going to bet these spots, even though easy money is hard to come by in MMA. I think this one's going to look like easy money on Saturday. I can't do it. I made a rule. I told myself I wasn't going to bet this spot anymore because it's bit me. But yeah, man, I've got Bahamondes in this spot. I think he wins. I think he rolls. I don't know if he KOs Makdessi because Makdessi is durable. He is savvy. He's a veteran. But I think he just loses the leg kick game. I think this is going to be potentially one of the most boring fights on the card, and we're going to be ready for it to be over by the time it gets there. But I'm expecting 30-27 Ignacio.
Man, I mean, it would be very nice to see. I think the last time Makdessi got knocked out was that super highlight against Lando Venado, which that was like one of the best KOs of the year that year. Go ahead.
Here's the thing, man. He's only been knocked out twice, and it's both been by head kicks. So that's where I'm like, man, if anyone's going to do it, Ignacio's the guy. Like, he got head kicked by Lando Venata, and then he got head kicked by Cowboy. And both times, it's taller, longer guys with a good kicking game that got him. That's what we're dealing with again on Saturday. So maybe he can pull that veteran savvy out, but I don't see the path to victory because I don't think he can out-grapple him, and I don't think he can outbox him. So if he's, running away from head kicks all night in the small cage because we're still in the apex, there's a chance that knockout comes out of left field. So I'm not touching it, but I think Ignacio is definitely the side to be on. I think you did a good job of bringing that number down, parlaying him with that absolute lock from Bellator, so you've got a better price than anybody else does out there. If I could get minus 130, I'd be all over Ignacio in this spot too.
Yeah, and again, it's a tricky fight for Draftkings because we could see that 3-round kind of pitter-patter kicking game, kind of low volume, slow-paced fight. Like you said, it could be boring, or we could get a round one head kick knockout. It's just it's definitely tricky to call. So again, I would have Ignacio in at least a quarter of your lineups, but I don't know if you can go more than that just because there's such a risk. But moving on to the next fight. So again, this is a not a rebooking. This is a new fight. The original opponent fell out. So we got Norma Dumont. She is minus 250 taking on Erin Blanchfield plus 210. I'm disappointed that B. Malecki pulled out because I did have a big juicy bet on Norma Dumont. I thought she was easy money in that spot. I'm not convinced on B. Malecki whatsoever, but we'll I'll save my rant for B. Malecki when she eventually fights again. Totally different fight here, though. I think this is a much tougher fight for Norma Dumont. What do you think about this one, man?
Yeah, man, this is a spot that there's a ton of questions. There's just a ton of questions. I like everything I see from Erin Blanchfield. I actually think she might be the better grappler in this spot. She's got a little more experience than Norma. The only big question for me is the size. Like, Norma Dumont is a big, big girl, and Erin Blanchfield's moving up a weight class. And we've seen that before when these women come from Invicta. They look great out the gates, but as soon as they run into a fighter that's just able to physical them around the cage, that's when they drop their fight. And I could absolutely see that happening here, and it kind of worries me. I'm very tempted on that plus 200 with Erin Blanchfield, but again, trusting a debuting UFC fighter isn't a long-term spot that's going to be overly profitable, but you're getting the right number. You're getting plus 200. That big, juicy line is extremely tempting to me. I want to wait and see how they size up, man. I want to watch the face-offs. I want to see them at weigh-ins, because if Erin isn't undersized against Norma Dumont, I think she's the better grappler, and she absolutely can win this fight. She trains with Caitlin Chukagian, so she's working with UFC caliber people that know the territory, and if they feel she's ready, who am I to say she's not? Like I'm looking at the dog here, man. I don't know if it's going to work out for her just because of that size difference, but if she gets this thing to the floor, I think she's got a definite path to victory.
So I would not blame anybody for taking Erin Blanchfield at plus 200 or better here, because I think there's a solid argument that she could be the better fighter, man. It's just it could be a size thing. You know, we had Norma, who was fighting at 145. She tried to move down to 135 last time, couldn't really make the weight. We know she's a thick girl, man. I mean, she's big. She's going to be strong. I believe she's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. Like, she's got good grappling. I think her striking looked a lot better. I mean, no doubt about it. She looked so much better against Ashley Evans-Smith than she did in her 145 debut. So it's not like Norma is some kind of, bum or a fighter on the decline. I actually think Norma is a fighter on the way up, and I think she could stick around. But, yeah, I don't know, man. Tough one to call. Short notice, opponent change, young fighters. I mean, Norma Dumont, I don't think she's super young, but she's only 6-1. So this is a really tough one. I think it's clearly a dog or pass situation, and this is coming from someone who did bet the big juice on Norma in her original matchup, but this one's much tougher in my opinion. I think the ceiling of Blanchfield is very high. I'm excited to see her drop down to 125 after this fight, but for now, I'm going to roll with Dumont by decision as kind of the smart, logical pick, but could totally see her dropping this one. So moving on to the next one, man, this is one I'm pretty excited about. We got Mateusz Gamrot. He's taking on Scott Holtzman. Gamrot about minus 227. Holtzman sitting around the plus 180s range. So I have Gamrot in a parlay. I like him in this spot. Loved that fight between him and Guram Kudataladze. I thought it could have gone either way.
That's my guy right there.
I didn't have some kind of strong opinion on who won that fight. It was so close. Props to both guys. I think they both have bright futures. Yeah, so I've seen a lot of people talk about the striking volume of Mateusz Gamrot, and yes, it's not great, but when he does throw, it's nice. He is a sharp striker. I know the volume's not there on the feet, but I'll tell you where the volume's not lacking, and that's his takedowns. He shot 16 takedowns against Guram Kudataladze in that fight, landed 5, and we're talking about a very strong Georgian wrestler there in Guram. And Mateusz, he did his thing, could have arguably got the nod, and now he's taking on Scott Holtzman, who, yeah, I mean, Scotty's been around the block for a while. He's got some good wins. Guy is bricked up. He's very strong. He hits hard. He's a solid fighter. He's stuck around as long as he did for a reason. But I just didn't see anything in the tape that shows me he's going to be able to stop the takedowns or grappling approach from Gamrot here. I went all the way back to the Drew Dober fight where Drew Dober's taken him down multiple times. I mean, yeah, maybe it's getting better. I know he's training with great guys out there, but I just got to go with the ceiling here with Gamrot. I just think with all the aggression from the takedowns, yeah, Scotty could stuff takedown attempt 1 and 2, but is he going to stuff takedown attempt 3 and 4? I just don't think so. I think Gamrot's coming in here hungry, especially after losing that last fight. He was 17-0 coming into that fight against Guram. Guram took that O away from Gamrot. I know my boy Gamrot's hungry. I think he's going to come in here. Love him for DraftKings, of course, with that, all that grappling upside. I mean, any guy that shoots 16 takedowns a fight is going to get some spots in my DraftKings lineup. So, yep, I'm going to go with Gamrot. Like him as a bet. Got him in the parlay, and I'm going to be going heavy on DraftKings as well. So, let's go. Who you got, man?
I feel you there, man. First off, shout out to my Georgian warrior, Guram Kudataladze. I mean, that guy, I took the dart throw on him coming into that fight. The variance gods smiled on me getting the split decision that night because That was a close fight, man, but I was getting like plus 250 or something. I had to. It was a fun little spot. People underestimated my guy. I doubt I'll get nearly as nice of a number when he gets back into the cage, because now everybody knows about Guram. So, man, I'm with you here. This is a spot where Scott Holtzman, he's another one of these guys that I've been trying to fade. Like, I bet on Jim Miller against him, and he was just too big, too physical for Jim. Jim did everything I wanted him to in that fight and just couldn't quite out-muscle the guy, couldn't quite hit hard enough to get the respect and back him up. And then, in his last fight, obviously, a lot of us bet against him, and he took that spinning back elbow forearm thing that knocked him out. First knockout of his career. He's incredibly physically tough, durable, strong, but he's so meat and potatoes, man. Like, he just doesn't offer much of anything. He's one of those generalists. He does everything pretty well, nothing great. And that's where I think a guy like Gamrot is going to be able to take advantage of him. And the other thing, man, I talked about this on my show. A lot of people just don't know. Scott Holtzman, he can't stop a right hand to save his soul, man. If you go back and you watch his fights, he eats right hands over and over and over. Every time he gets rocked, every time he gets backed up, every time he's hurt, it's from a right hand. The guy has no ability to stop a right hand. And Gamrot may not have the prettiest striking. He may be a little bit low volume, but his biggest punch is that right hand. It's going to be there for him all night. And when you get thinking takedown, your hands go from here to down here. And that right hand coming off of a feint to the takedown is going to be there later in this fight. I think Guram can win this thing by making it boring. He can grind him up against the fence. He can take him down. He can knock him out. I think there is plenty of opportunity here for Guram. And honestly, man, I'm tempted to back the truck up. I know he's a minus 240, but I've been burned by parlays, and I'm trying to kind of hammer out my game and make my sports betting game as nice and crisp and clean as possible. So I was very tempted to parlay Guram up with somebody to get a nice even money line or something. I may just lay the chalk. I may just back it up and make a big bet on him to go straight, because I think Scott Holtzman is a guy that's been floating around the top 15 his entire career, but I think he's tapped out, and he's 37 years old. You don't get better from this point, and he's not from Brazil, so he's not going to be like a Glover Teixeira that suddenly starts turning back the clock here for us. I think it's going to be a downhill slide here for Scott, and I think Guram gets the first win of his UFC career on Saturday.
That's a good point about the right hand, man. And I totally forgot to mention the Nick Lentz fight. I thought that was kind of a poor performance from Scott Holtzman. Like, he stuffed a lot of takedowns, but Nick Lentz went for a lot of takedowns, so he was still able to get 5, got some top control in that fight, clearly won that fight. So, yeah, I think this is a good spot for Mateusz Gamrot to get back on track. So moving on to the next fight. Ooh, this is a fun one. We got a nice vet versus up-and-comer matchup here. We got Jim Miller breaking his own record here of most fights in UFC history. I believe this is his 37th UFC fight, which is just amazing. Taking on Joe Solecki. Money coming in on Solecki. He's minus 230 now. He wasn't quite as steep a couple days ago. Man, I got to be honest. I kind of feel like Jim Miller is live for a round 1 finish here. If it doesn't happen, like we typically know, especially in these later years, that he doesn't have a whole lot to offer in rounds 2 or 3. Like, the gas tank isn't there. And I do suspect that if it does get extended past the first round, Solecki's probably going to be able to do his thing. But, man, I mean, we've seen Solecki finish before. I believe it was Nicholas Mota that finished him in the first round. And, yeah, I know Solecki he's a great grappler, man. His BJJ is, like, seriously top-notch. So, I mean, it's hard to see Jim Miller getting a sub here, but, like, Jim Miller throws heat on the feet as well. And, like, I can see him cracking Solecki. I could see, like, a Club and Sub. Shout out to Club and Sub podcast. Yeah, man, I mean, I don't want to touch Solecki at minus 230. I know the ceiling's high. I know he could be a really good fighter. He is a really good fighter. The BJJ is there. Striking's getting better, but I don't know, man. It's just hard for me to completely count out the 36 fight UFC vet, who's, by the way, still going out there and stopping a lot of up and comers these days. You know, you saw the Roosevelt Roberts fight. Other ones are blank in my mind, but yeah, I mean, never completely count out Jim Miller, man. I could see a round 1 finish here, but the smart pick in me is probably going to go with Joe Solecki to take rounds 2 and 3 for a unanimous decision. Who you got?
Man, first off, can I just say I hate the Club and Sub podcast, because They are so damn business savvy coming up with a name like that. It's a term we all use, and then every single podcaster shouts out the Club and Sub podcast after we use the term Club and Sub. Like, they just get so much free advertising because of their name. You're assholes, and I love you. It's genius. Good move.
Hey.
So I'm not touching this fight, man, because let me tell you, Jim Miller is one of those fighters that I just can't get right. If I bet against him, he snaps somebody's arm off in round 1. And then if I bet on him, he gasses out and he gets his ass beat for 2 rounds and loses a 29-28. Like, that just, it's the opposite every single time, no matter what I say about Jim Miller. I think Jim is sub or bust, first round or bust. Like, that's what the guy does. He's got one solid round of gas in him, and if he gets out of that first round, he doesn't have the technique to hang with guys for much longer than that, and then he doesn't have the explosiveness or the gas to hang with guys much longer than that. So I'm kind of feeling the younger fighter here. I think Joe Solecki is kind of a Jim Miller 2.0. He's a little better at everything, pretty much everywhere. He's younger, he's bigger, he's stronger. And as long as he just stays safe in that first round, I think that Joe Solecki either wins this thing via decision, or I think he could actually get a late finish, because Jim Miller slows down big. You know, he's one of these guys that goes for it hard, and if he doesn't get it, he doesn't have a parachute, man. He doesn't have much of an escape plan. So I can absolutely see him burning everything and then getting finished later in the fight by the younger, hungrier, more talented black belt. But I can't bet it, because if I bet on Joe Solecki, y'all run to the window and bet Jim Miller with everything you've got, because you know the first round finish is coming if I put my money against him. It's just, he hates me. It's what he does.
So it's main card time. And Clint, we got a little bit of a debate here, because we got Daniel Rodriguez. He's about minus 160, taking on Mike Platinum Perry, plus 140. I'm going to let you start with this one.
Man, I got Mike Perry. I am on the Platinum Papa. I am riding this guy to the bank. This is one of those spots that I absolutely love, man. The stock for Mike Perry could not be lower. Like, nobody has any interest in Mike Perry right now. And because of that, we are getting value on this line that shouldn't be there. The fact of the matter is, he's a young guy. He's 29 years old. He's made some stupid decisions. He's had some big-time personal issues that have been very, very much in the public eye. And because of that, there's a perception of him that just isn't necessarily true. You know, Mike Perry was on a good trajectory a couple of years ago. He had a good, solid gym. He had a good camp. He was one of those guys that you could back and feel comfortable with it, because he was getting better and he was learning the MMA game, and he won a fight against Vicente Luque. I don't give a shit what the judges say about that fight. Mike Perry beat Vicente Luque that night, and people are just counting him out now because he went through this rough patch where he went on I don't know, shit. He should have been doing coke, or, you know, he was drinking too much, or maybe it was just his new goddess girlfriend that had him high, but like, he went out the window, man. He tossed his brain out on the side of the road, and he went nuts the last couple of fights. But now he's got a kid. I mean, we saw what happened when Donald Cowboy Cerrone had a son, and he doubled down. And his next couple of fights were the best fights we've ever seen, because all of a sudden shit got real for him. It was serious. He had to protect his child. He had to provide for his child. That's exactly what's happening with Mike Perry right now. He moved to a real gym. He's got a real coach, and he is putting in the hard work and effort for this fight. And he's taking on another fighter who, let's be real, just is not that great. D-Rod is not the guy we thought he was. He's 34 years old. He's not improving. This is another guy that I feel like swung and missed as a prospect here in the UFC, and I don't really expect him to improve upon really what we've seen. He's been hurt in all of his last couple of fights, and he's managed to pull through somehow. I think the referee saved him against Grant. That fight easily could have been stopped. And man, you should not be getting rocked by Dalby in the year of our Lord 2021. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for Mike Perry to land a big bomb on this dude. I question the durability of D-Rod. And honestly, Mike Perry's a sneaky grappler, man. He's been really, really good on the ground. He's shown some improvement in his ground game. We all think of him as this striker. He's more well-rounded than people realize. And I think coming in, dialed in, locked in, focused, he's going to be able to pull the upset here, man. I got Mike Perry at plus 155.
So, I thought that was a good breakdown, man. Even though I'm on the other side, I thought you made a lot of good points. And it's interesting because when I first started looking at this card, I was kind of interested in Perry, and I had somebody in one of my group chats. They're like, "Yo, I like Daniel Rodriguez. I'm probably gonna bet Daniel Rodriguez in this fight." I'm like, "Yeah, Daniel Rodriguez got knocked down by Dwight Grant and lost to Dalby, right?" He's like, "Oh yeah." But then when I actually went and looked at it, it's like I can't trust Perry. Like I just don't like where his career's headed. Like the whole having a kid thing, that scares me. It could be major motivation. Even if you listen to his interview today, which I just did before jumping on with you, like his mindset is completely different, and you could tell he's trying. He's definitely trying to turn things around. Like he's doing all the right things, that's for sure. But I kind of think it might just be a situation where it's a little too late for all that. Like he took a lot of damage in his career. Like I actually agree with you, by the way, on the Vicente Luque fight. I thought Mike Perry won that as well, but damn, a lot of damage in that fight. You talk about the Jeff Neal fight, where I mean, really bad knockout, where you had people in his life saying that he couldn't remember what happened like till the next day and shit, and couldn't remember the whole day until weeks later, and kind of set something off in his brain, all kinds of personal stuff. And yeah, he did a lot of questionable things outside the octagon. I just didn't. And still, I mean, it's just very concerning. Like, yeah, I applaud him for it looks like he's trying to get it together. And I'll say this, like he's putting work in on the grappling side too. Like he's been landing takedowns. He took Tim Means back. But I just don't think it's going to be that simple here. Like when it comes to the feet, like yeah, I mean, power's the last thing to go. He could hurt D-Rod here, but the boxing just hasn't looked the same to me. Like it's more slow. The reaction time's not as good. I actually think his wrestling's been looking better than his striking has, and I'm kind of concerned about the wrestling, to be honest. But Daniel Rodriguez, he's got a very good ground game. Training over there at 10th Planet, like I think so. He actually has a 90% takedown defense in the UFC so far. And the one time he was taken down, Tim Means got him down. He utilized the butterfly guard. He created space. He got right back up, like literally seconds after getting taken down. So yeah, and not only that, Perry. So, oh man, I got to bring the stat back up. I completely forgot the point I was going to make. But so Perry, oh yeah. So when he does wrestle, and he has been wrestling for a while. Remember he got takedowns on Paul Felder there in their fight. He kind of slows down when he does wrestle, and if you actually look at it, I don't believe he has landed more than one takedown. I think the only time he landed more than one takedown in a fight was that Paul Felder fight where he was fighting a 155 pounder on short notice. So it's kind of tough to say to bank on Perry winning this fight via wrestling and the volume. There's a big difference in the volume here. If you take a look at the stats, like D-Rod just throws more in combinations. Perry throws more, the bombs. So I don't know, man. I feel like if this fight ends up going 3 rounds, I think D-Rod's probably got it, but I'm concerned about the knockout, of course. I mean, yeah, he got knocked down pretty good against Dwight Grant, but what I will say is he showed toughness. He got right back up, and he put it on Dwight Grant. And there could be a situation where if Perry hurts him, he gets right back up, and he puts it on Perry. He's a very tough guy. Latin American fighter. Those guys come to fight very tough. I think this is going to be a very great fight, though, and I like Daniel Rodriguez here. I got him in the parlay with Mateusz Gamrot. I think we did bank both good points, so we'll just have to let the best man win. We'll see what happens. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, man. I mean, just a couple of notes here. So first off, the Vicente Luque fight, which we both agree he probably deserved to win. He broke his nose in that fight. I mean, it was off to here, right? And then 4 months later, he takes on Jeff Neal. I mean, who does that? I mean, you don't take time off to heal from an absolute war with a guy like Vicente Luque, and then you fight the biggest power puncher in the division. Of course he was going to get knocked out that fight. Like, we saw that coming a mile away. That was a bad choice. And that's how, honestly, man, I think that's how DC got the heavyweight strap. Because I think, Stipe took that fight short turnaround after Francis Ngannou. He wasn't healed yet. He wasn't ready yet. One well-timed shot was all it took to put him down because he came back too quick. Now, I'm not saying that Mike Perry would beat Jeff Neal, but that didn't help him. And the first round knockout was on its way because of that quick turnaround. And then let's just talk about the names on these records, man. Santiago Ponzinibbio, Max Griffin, Paul Felder, Donald Cerrone, Alex Oliveira, Vicente Luque, Jeff Neal. I mean, he's been fighting some legit high-level fighters in the UFC. And then you've got Tim Means, Gabe Green, Dwight Grant, and Nicholas Dalby. I mean, like, the level of competition isn't even close. So this is a spot where people are thinking downward trajectory versus upward trajectory, but we've seen it a ton, man. That downward trajectory fighter, when they get their shit together, they prove where they belong. And this is a spot where I just think the wrong guy's favored. I mean, at worst, you should make it a 50-50 type of fight. So it's a numbers game, man. We're talking sports betting. Getting plus 155, I will flip that coin all day.
All right, we will see. So moving on to the next fight, here's one we agree on, my man. So we got Nina Ansaroff. She is minus 140, taking on Mackenzie Dern, plus 120. I'll start with this one, man. Yeah, so it's funny. It's kind of been the theme of the night. I was originally interested in Mackenzie Dern. You got Nina Ansaroff, who's coming back after having a kid. I feel like Mackenzie Dern has been making improvements with her striking. And, I mean, Mackenzie Dern is the kind of girl where if she gets somebody down, it could end really at any moment. But when I looked into it, I like Nina Ansaroff in this fight. And, like, firstly, with the whole just had a kid thing, like, it's been probably like 5-6 months now. She looks in insane shape. She don't look like somebody who just had a kid. I mean, my girl Nina is bricked up right now. Go check out that Instagram. But anyway, she's got great takedown defense, man. And, like, firstly, like, it doesn't even take that great of takedown defense to defend from Mackenzie Dern. Like, the offensive wrestling is very bad. I think she's gotten one takedown in her UFC career out of, I think, like 17 or 18 attempts. Not good. Like, I know she can pull guard and she has these other ways. Like, I know she knocked down Amanda Bobby Cooper. And that's the one thing I'll say about Mackenzie Dern. She kind of does have above average power for a woman. That being said, like, this isn't Amanda Bobby Cooper. She's probably not going to come out here and rock it or drop Nina Ansaroff. Nina Ansaroff is going to have the striking advantage here. She's going to have the takedown defense to stuff for Mackenzie Dern. A big one here is the fight IQ. A lot of the time with Mackenzie Dern, like me and Clint were just talking off air, like some of those wins Mackenzie Dern had were kind of more about what the other fighter did wrong. Like Randa Marcos was our example. Like, that was a fight Randa Marcos could have won, but she engaged in the grappling. Same thing with Hannah Cyphers. Like, I'm not saying Hannah Cyphers would have beat Mackenzie Dern, although she might have. Cyphers engaged in the grappling. So it's like Nina Ansaroff is a little bit smarter than that. And not only that, like, people will say it, and it does mean something. She does train constantly with the baddest chick on the planet, Amanda Nunes. If you're going to say that doesn't help her, like, of course it fucking helps her that the greatest woman fighter of all time is literally around her 24/7. That's a huge positive. So I'm not too worried about the layoff. I'm not worried about that she just had a kid. I'm more impressed with the skills I saw on the tape. I'm impressed with the way the shape she's in right now. So I think Nina Ansaroff does her thing, stuffs the takedown, fights smart, keeps it standing, and outstrikes Mackenzie Dern. Now, I got a little cheeky bet here. This could totally come back and hurt me, but I bet 2 units on Nina Ansaroff to win this fight by decision at plus 175. Had to get on that early line. Like, I knew it was going to be steamed. It's plus 140 now. So, yeah, I mean, I think it'd be pretty tough for Nina to finish Mackenzie Dern. Like, anything could happen in the sport for sure, but like, she's not going to sub Mackenzie Dern. It's pretty low percentage that she would TKO or KO Mackenzie Dern. Like, maybe it could happen late if Dern gets frustrated, but like, I think more often than not, when Nina wins this fight, it's probably by decision. So a plus 175, which is that's 35% indicated. I think it's more like 50%. So yeah, I got Nina by decision plus 175. You got anything else you want to say, man?
Man, you nailed it. You absolutely broke this thing down. I've got my biggest bet of the night on Nina Ansaroff. I got in at minus 110. I've got 2.2 units to win 2 on her. And I can't understand the love for Dern, man. It's a thing that I've been trying to take advantage of, but I've been betting on low IQ fighters that have been just gifting her win condition, and Nina Ansaroff will not do that. Nina Ansaroff is not going to dive arms wide open on top of Mackenzie Dern and just say, hey, here's my arm, take it, go ahead, submit me. Like, that's not going to happen. She's an extremely well-rounded fighter. Like you mentioned, she's absolutely bricked up. She's in serious shape. You got to think that she's been working with her wife and partner on the takedown defense, just like she has been for all of her title defenses. Like, she's going to be ready. And Dern can't wrestle, man. That's all it comes down to. Dern is reliant on her opponent slipping on a banana peel and going to the ground that way for her to actually be able to engage in her best path to victory. So if we're talking standing on the feet, I can't see Dern hitting a fighter the caliber of Ansaroff so badly that it rocks her enough that it gets it to the ground. I don't think she's got that level of power. So I think that this is all day Nina Ansaroff, man. I think she'd be a minus 175 favorite. Like, I don't understand the line. I don't see why it's where it's at. I think the hype train and the win streak that Dern has been on is clouding some people's judgment, and I think she's about to get derailed here, man. I'm going to go with Nina.
All right, so we're moving on to the next one, man. This is a fun one. We got Julian Marquez minus 190 taking on smiling Sam Alvey plus 165. I'll be honest, bro. I think Sam Alvey's kind of live in this spot. A lot of people, pretty much basically everybody is completely shitting on Jung and who's the other light heavyweight prospect? Ryan Spann. People are completely shitting on Jung and Ryan Spann for having close fights with Alvey, but how about somebody gives Alvey a little credit, like a little fucking credit for going to close fights with those two, by the way, giant guys. Jung and Ryan Spann are literally gigantic. Sam Alvey, we're talking former welterweight. Like, and now he's moving back down to 185 here, which I like, and he's in pretty good shape too. So yeah, he's lost 5 fights in a row. It's not looking great for Smiling Sam, and like there's always been the volume problem. The blueprint's kind of out there to beat him, but like Julian Marquez is really nothing special, and I could just totally see Sam Alvey countering him like all day long here. I'm not saying Sam Alvey's going to knock Marquez out. I actually think Marquez is very durable. I'm not saying Sam Alvey can win a clear decision here. I think there's just totally a chance this fight ends up being very, very close, like a split decision type fight. So, man, I know it's totally unappealing to play a guy like Sam Alvey at this point, but at plus 165, just totally putting the fighters aside, I think there's value on the number. Like, I can't bring myself to do it, but this is just totally Sam Alvey or pass, in my opinion. What do you think about this fight?
Kelton, I bet Sam against Jung, and I got robbed, man. They still owe me my money because they gifted that man a draw, and it was wrong. Sam Alvey straight won that fight. And I've been trying to give Sam Alvey credit for years, and people continue to laugh at me. And then people also continue to just look at his share dog record and see the losing streak and not talk about the good shit that he does in fights. He's dropping down to 185. Where I think that power should translate a whole hell of a lot more. And he's taking on a guy in Julian who is just not that good. I'm sorry I said it. Julian Marquez is nothing special. Now, Sam has a hard weight cut to 185. That's my only concern, is that is a tough weight cut for him. And if he's at all gassed, if he doesn't have the gas to go 15 minutes, if he blows his load, or if he just doesn't have enough water in his head, Julian Marquez might be able to knock him out. But the same could be said the other way. I know Julian Marquez is durable. I know he's tough, but Sam Alvey knocks out 205ers. So he is totally live here for a counter shot bomb. And Julian Marquez is another one of these guys that walks forward with his hands down. I think there's value on Sam Alvey, absolutely. My only concern, as always, is the volume of Sam Alvey. He backs up, he lets his opponent lead the dance, and he looks for those big shots. So he always ends up just barely getting edged out. He lands the bigger, more powerful shots, but his opponents volume him up 7-1, and then the judges give it to the other guy, and he cries robbery. That's how all competitive Sam Alvey fights goes. And I see that kind of happening here again. You know, I think Sam Alvey is live. He can clip Marquez. He can win this fight. He absolutely can. But it comes down to that whole you can't teach an old dog new tricks type of thing. If Sam Alvey would just step forward, if he would lead the dance, if he would be the aggressor, I think he stands a really good shot of winning. But if he keeps on moving backwards, he's going to let another close decision slip on by him against Julian Marquez. Let's also not forget that Julian Marquez was on his way to losing to Maki Pitolo in his last fight until Maki gave up in the third round, and he was able to get that Hail Mary last-second submission for the win. He did not look good in that fight. Now, a lot of people might say that was ring rust. He'll look better this time around. But, bro, I think that's just how Julian Marquez fights. Like, I think that's who he is. I think that's him. So I think Sam Alvey is live here, but I can't trust him to do anything more than we've seen him do for the last couple of years. I'm cheering for Sam Alvey. In my heart, I'm a Sam Alvey guy. I want to see him win. We'll see what happens, but I can't put a bet on this one. And both these guys are durable enough that I've decided to stay away from the total. I thought about the under 2.5, but I'm just going to stay off it.
Co-main event time. Two great prospects in the featherweight division. We got Sodiq Yusuff minus 145, taking on Arnold Allen plus 125. Clint, I'll let you start with this one.
Well, first off, I have to apologize because I butchered this breakdown on my own podcast. Anybody listening to our show and then listening to my podcast, just skip this fight because I mixed up my Allens and I was saying the wrong name a ton of times because there's a couple of Allens in the UFC. So everybody was giving me shit in the live chat, and it was just a total facepalm live moment for me. So anyway, I love this fight, man. This is an absolutely great fight. I kind of lean to Sodiq Yusuff. I like what this guy brings to the table. He's incredibly physically powerful. He's just so freaking strong. He's got a 72% takedown defense, and if you get him to the ground, he does not stay there. This guy gets right back up every single time. So I don't know if Arnold is going to be able to get him down and keep him down. That said, Allen's got a huge ground advantage, in my opinion. If he does get him down, he might be able to get that submission. He's got a 52% takedown accuracy rating, so he's very, very clean. When he wants to get the fight to the floor, he usually gets it to the floor. I don't want to touch this one. I lean Sodiq Yusuff, but that's kind of the way that the money has come in, and now he's about minus 145. He's getting a little too pricey for my taste. And this is a perfect fight to just sit back and enjoy, man. We're going to see two young up-and-coming prospects and see who really is going to be the future of this division here. We got 16-1 versus 11-1. Like, this is going to be fun, man. I don't normally say this because I'm a complete degenerate, but I don't need a bet on this fight.
I completely agree, man. I'm passing on this fight now. I pretty much agree with the line, though. I think slight favorite Sodiq sounds about right. Like, both guys have their advantages here. I think Sodiq, obviously, he's going to be the guy. He's going to be throwing more volume. His shots are going to have a harder effect. But I do think Arnold Allen, he's probably the more technical guy, and he's sneaky, man, and he's precise. Like, Arnold Allen is a great striker, and I mean, I can see him tagging Sodiq. I can see Sodiq tagging him. I think there's just a lot of outcomes in this fight. You mentioned the grappling. I think both guys can have success with the grappling, and it's almost kind of like the striking, to where I think Sodiq is the stronger guy and can kind of out-muscle Allen, but Allen is the more technical grappler. So I feel like almost every area of this fight, I can give advantages to both guys. It's just so well matched. Like, yeah, I'm picking Sodiq. I think the line's right, but if somebody wants to take the plus 125 or even plus 130 is out there in some places on Allen, like, I can't completely hate it. I mean, you're getting a good price on a good prospect. So, yeah, and arguably the more technical guy as well. So I'm going to roll with Sodiq. I feel like there's going to just be moments where he can out-muscle Arnie up against the cage, maybe get some takedowns and just land the harder shot. So I'll go with Sodiq by a close split decision. We're moving on to the main event here, man, and this one is it's interesting. So we got Marvin Vettori. He's minus 350. Taking on Kevin Holland plus 275. The original fight against Darren Till, that was a very interesting one. You had a lot of people on MMA Twitter betting Marvin in that spot against Darren Till. I'll be honest, I hadn't even looked into the fight yet, but gut feeling, I probably had Marvin in that fight too. But Darren Till, he's got some sneaky, boxing, man. I feel like he could have tagged Marvin. I feel like Kevin Holland can tag Marvin, like both dangerous strikers. So in a way, it's kind of a similar fight. Two strikers that are probably going to be looking to knock out Marvin, looking to defend those takedowns. And the problem with me, why I think this is, I don't want to say an easier fight. That's just disrespectful to Holland, but I think this is just a more favorable fight for Marvin because, I mean, we just saw Kevin Holland 3 weeks ago not be able to get up or stuff a takedown. I think he stuffed like one takedown. He might have got up one time, but like, yeah, it didn't look good. Like, did he learn how to get up in 2 weeks? Like, I don't know. I feel like Marvin. I feel like he could even be minus 400 or minus 500 in this spot, like 80% indication. Like, yeah, I kind of see that, man. Like, the dude is just a complete. He's a savage, man. Like, he's a bull. He's so strong. He's powerful. Like, the technique is getting better. He's so fucking confident too. Like, I love Marvin Vettori. He is a great fighter. I look forward to seeing him get his rematch with Israel Adesanya one day. I think that is probably the most intriguing title fight at middleweight you could make right now. Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Holland for sure. Like, he's exciting. He's got a black belt. It didn't really look like it last fight, but yeah. I gotta go with Vettori. It's just hard for me to imagine Holland winning this fight, man. Like, it's got to be some kind of fluky finish, and that's no disrespect on Holland. It's just, it is what it is based on what I saw on the tape. You even had Kevin Holland saying after that fight against Brunson, I want to move to 170. What does he do? He takes a fight against one of the top 185ers in the world. It's just, yeah, I get it. You're saving the day. You're making a paycheck, and look, the fans respect you for doing that, Holland, but let's be honest, you took a terrible fight. Who do you got here, man?
Man, the only thing I can say is, would it not be the most Kevin Holland thing of all time for him to walk in here and knock the fuck out of Marvin Vettori? Like, I can picture it now. Like, Marvin Vettori, I love this guy. I think he's title caliber. I think he's championship challenger worthy. I don't know if he ever actually gets the strap put around his waist or anything like that, but I love everything I see from Marvin Vettori. He's an excellent fighter. He's on that EPO. Like, we want to back him every chance that we get because he just keeps on grinding on people. But the thing is, man, he doesn't have the takedown volume that I think he needs in this fight. I think that when he runs into a slicker striker that hits harder than him, he's going to be in trouble. And that's what happened with Israel Adesanya, and that's what could happen here against Kevin Holland. The fact that he's kind of fallen in love with his striking, the fact that he's more of a volume striker now these days, that is scary, man. Going up against Kevin Holland, if he doesn't decide to take this thing to the floor, he could eat something big and go down. And that's why I'm actually looking at this as a dog or pass spot. Like, the people that got in on it early, minus 180, minus 175 for on Vettori, that sounds great. That's a good spot. But now that he's minus 300 and climbing, like, it's just getting out of control. It's just getting out of hand. This is a recency bias spot if I have ever seen one. Like, Kevin Holland, did we forget he's a BJJ black belt? Did we forget the kind of power he has on the feet and he knocks people out? Like, yeah, he can't defend a takedown, but Marvin Vettori only shoots one takedown per fight. So if you're only getting this guy to the floor once or twice, is he going to be able to do what Brunson did? Like, Brunson, it took everything he had to hold this guy down for 25 minutes. I know I know Vettori, he's younger. He's got a better gas tank. He probably can grind for 25 better than a guy like Brunson can, so I don't expect it to be quite that exhausting. But he just doesn't have that wrestling volume game. And on top of that, we got to think, he was facing Darren Till. Do you think his game plan against Darren Till was to take him down for 25 minutes? Like, what's he been training for? I got to think he was training for a technical boxing fight where he knew he could out-volume the guy and stay on the outside and avoid the big, slow bomb, because that's all Darren Till does, is walk forward and swings one big punch at a time. He's getting a completely different opponent who's lighter, who's faster. Yeah, we might see round 1 and 2 look a lot like we did in the Brunson fight where he just puts him on his back and he doesn't have an answer for it. But, man, Kevin Holland, he causes scrambles. He almost got Brunson in that armbar. Like, Vettori doesn't have that lockdown style of grappling, and I don't know if he's willing to just hold on to Holland for 25 minutes and shoot 10 takedowns in a fight to make sure he gets it to the floor. If he doesn't respect his opponent here, and I could absolutely see Vettori being a guy that smelled his own farts enough to think that he just can't be touched. If he comes in and looks past this guy, he could wake up looking at the lights, man. It's a dangerous fight. It's a dangerous opponent. And I'm kind of rooting for Kevin Holland to shut everybody up here. If this number gets out of control, it's a dog or pass spot, in my opinion. I think the time to bet Marvin Vettori has passed, and I wouldn't suggest anybody load up on him at minus 350, minus 400, because that's the direction he's heading, and it just doesn't make sense at this point for me.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely kind of hard to fade a guy like Kevin Holland at such a high price. But yeah, I do think it's a good fight for Vittori. But we got through the whole card, man. I'm going to quickly touch on some of my favorite DraftKings spots. So at the top of the line, I mean, I think if Vittori wins, it's going to be 5 rounds of, takedowns, top control, some good volume. I also like Mateusz Gamrot at the top there. I think he's going to get many takedowns, top control. As for a mid range, so for FanDuel, like I don't play FanDuel. I know a lot of my viewers and people on Twitter play FanDuel, but they award fighters points for stuffing takedowns. I think Nina Ansaroff is going to score very high on FanDuel because I see her stuffing a lot of takedowns for Mackenzie Dern. Now,
That's
it's
a
not
great
the
spot.
that's not the case on DraftKings, unfortunately. So I don't know how much Ansaroff I'm going to actually have, but I think Arnold Allen at 7,700, Jordan Griffin at 7,600. Those could be good dog plays. And as far as the cheapest fighters on the card as punts, I think you could look at Sam Alvey, 7,200. I think you could look at Jim Miller, 7,100. I mean, if Jim Miller wins, it's going to be in round one, guys. He's going to be in the optimal lineup at such a cheap price. And lastly, I'll go with Erin Blanchfield at 6,900, which I think that's totally volume because, like, especially in cash formats where in a fight where I probably don't think Norma Dumont's going to finish this fight. So if Erin Blanchfield can rack up at least, a good amount of points, even if it's a 3 round loss, I think that's value at such a cheap price. So yeah, those are my favorite DraftKings spots. As far as bets, I have 3 units on Jack Shore minus 141. I have 3 units on Bahamondes to finish off a parlay. I got another parlay of Mateusz Gamrot with Daniel Rodriguez, and then I have a 2 unit prop bet on Nina Ansaroff. Clint, I want to thank you very much for coming on, man. That was a lot of fun. It was good to catch up with you. So thank you very much. I want you to tell the people where they can find you. I'm sure most of my viewers are already subscribed to the one and only Die Hard MMA podcast, but go ahead, tell the people, plug away.
Thanks for having me, man. It was an absolute blast. We got to do this more often again for sure. And these days, folks, you can find me over at Pub Sports Radio. Your boys got a new sponsor. So starting Monday, the show will be live on Pub Sports Radio Live. Make sure you head on over there, subscribe. You can follow me at Diehard MMA Pod on Twitter. I've got all the social media platforms locked down, so give me a follow. I tweet out all my stuff, and I'll let you know when and where I'm going live. So if you want to watch the show, don't worry. You won't miss it. And as for me, I've got William Knight. I've got Nina Ansaroff as my big bet, and then I've got Mike Perry as my big underdog. So far, I've only got the 3 shots, but I am looking at Jack Shore round 3 for a fun little sprinkle, and I am looking at the under 2.5 on the Impa Kasanganay fight at about plus 180, plus 170, and then maybe even taking a shot with Impa by knockout, and I think that's like 6-1. Those are my my funsy spots that I may be taking my stance on here by Saturday.
Very nice. Best of luck to you, man. Best of luck to all the viewers if you guys are betting on some fights. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'd like to get up to 800 subscribers by my birthday, which is exactly 3 months away. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that. Appreciate you guys very much. We're going to get on out of here. See ya on the next one. We got about eight cards in a row after this, guys. So